So I want to do a mechanical restoration, and figured I'd bring y'all along. Maybe you'll like to see this. So let's get started. I usually start with the flywheel. And there's an easy way to get those off. Now, all Model Ps should be right-hand thread, and if you have one that has left-hand threads, then that means it's been replaced with a crankshaft from a Model PB, because most of those are left-hand thread, and they're all interchangeable. You can switch them, and they work just fine. Let's see what's going on under here. Okay, flywheel looks good. Other than a little bit of grunge, this all looks good too. Don't know about the coil yet. We'll have to do some testing on that. Now this fan is not original to this engine. Somebody put it on there, but it's part of the reason I bought the engine. I really like that. So I'm going to put it back on. Well, let's get it off for now. And this little thing on the carburetor is not original either. Some kind of choke thing that somebody put on there. I don't know if I'm going to leave that on or not. But to get the carb off, all you got to do is take this top clamp off. And you can take it off in one assembly. Jeez. Yeah, it definitely needed to be taken apart. You'd hate to start an engine with all this kind of crap inside of it. They only have 2 rings. One of them's... no, it's not stuck. And one thing I want to point out, these cylinder fins are very delicate, so you want to handle them with care. A lot of times you'll find, just like this one, that these fins near the spark plug are broken from people being careless during spark plug removal. And find sometimes that this exhaust port is also busted on the bottom side. And this one's in very good shape, so I'm happy with that. And that little piece of cloth, that is original. Needs a little cleaning. Can't really tell if there's much oil in here or not. And before I take that last one out, I'm going to get the oil pan. They have a nice simple oil pump assembly in these. They're quite dependable. And that's the original gasket. Sometimes these original gaskets can be a real pain in the ass to get off. I think Briggs used some kind of super glue when they put them on. And they are asbestos. A lot of crud in there. That would have been circulating and all the bearings and everything. That's why I like to take them apart. Now there's two little brass shims in here between the rod and the rod cap, so make sure you don't lose those. The purpose of those is when the rod gets loose, you can take the shims out, sand a little bit off of them, put them back in and get a little better clearance. That's a nice bearing. Would have been a shame to destroy it with all the crud. Here's those shims. Of course, I already dropped one of them. Those are nice bearings. So as I was saying earlier, to get the cam out, there's a bolt in there that you need to remove. You can get at it from up here. Sometimes the cams will slide right out like this. Other times you really have to fight them. A lot of times there's going to be all kinds of marks on here from people resetting the timing over the years from that set screw. And that can cause some trouble getting it out too. And there's the cam and the thrust washer. And that's what operates the oil pump, that eccentric right here. Well, wherever the oil pump rod is, it just rides against that. When it gets there, it pushes down on the oil pump. Over here it lets back up. So that's about it. You can also take off the valve tappet. But I'm not going to bore you guys with all the cleaning and the gaskets and stuff like that. When it's ready to go back together, I'll come back. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I'll try to answer anything you got. So here's the Model P all ripped apart, ready for cleaning, degreasing, getting all the abrasive crap out of the oil pan and the crankcase. And get all the crap off the piston. I'll pull those rings and clean the grooves out too. You always want to do that if you pull the piston out. But all in all, it's in good shape. And if the coil's good, should have a running engine here pretty soon. And I did do some pre-assembly. I put the piston and rod back together because there's usually some carbon up inside the piston. I like to get all that out. And I pulled the rings off and scraped the grooves out. And they have some uneven wear. And I think that's because of a previous owner took it apart and didn't bother to pull the rings out and scrape all the carbon. Because you take it apart and all that carbon in there gets shifted around. And then you might have a spot where the ring sticks out beyond the cylinder, which causes premature wear on the ring and the cylinder, so that's never a good thing. Yeah, and the magneto was completely shot, the coil was dead, the points were wasted, and the condenser was also done, so had to go in the parts department and get all that stuff, and I think I got a good coil here. And points looked okay that I found. So hopefully that'll work good. And I put the exhaust valve back in the cylinder. So, alright. This thing was freaking filthy on the inside. Probably one of the worst engines I've ever seen as far as crud. It took a while to get all that crap out of there. There was actually some areas in there where there was about an 1/8 inch of hardened residue that I had to scrape out, which was fun. While I'm thinking about it, I did have to get another intake valve. The one that was with this engine was just, it needs some work. But while I wanted to mention these little holes inside that valve, they often get plugged up over the years. So it's a good idea to take a drill and just by hand, maybe if you have to use pliers, clean those holes out, because that restricts all your air and fuel. I think that's a number 15 drill. Might have to go with a 14 or a 16. Kind of varies sometimes. So I got the cam back in. Pretty damn close right there. And advance it 1 tooth. I think I'm going to go with that. So as long as I don't remove the crankshaft, the timing is going to be okay. Now when you put the piston and rod in, all these letter series Briggs have an oil hole on the rod there. That always faces towards the magneto. In these early cast iron pistons, it doesn't really matter which way you put it in. But the later ones will have an X marked on some of them. And when they have that X, that also faces the magneto. When you go to put your rod and cap back together, there should be a groove on each one of them. See the groove there? No groove on that side. Line the grooves up. And of course make sure both your brass shims are in there between the rod and the cap. Now you don't have to freaking super torque these things. Just get them good and snug. Now the fun part, putting a freaking oil pump and the oil pan back on. Here's the oil pump plunger rod. That goes in that little hole down there, right next to the cam. Alright, make sure my oil pump plunger is in there. Yep, that looks good. And it's plunging as it should, so go ahead and tighten this up. Alright. Guess I can go ahead and put these stands back on it. That's better. I'm not going to do the two top ones just yet. Wait till the cylinder's back on for that. Now some of these will have a threaded hole right here, and when they do, that means the carburetor faces this way. But when it doesn't have the hole like this one, the carburetor will be over on the other side. And using this, forget what the hell these are called, but that's how you control the throttle on it. The ones with the hole on this side would have a casing clamp along with your control casing and wire. Well, I guess it fits, it's just kind of snug. There's a guy on eBay that sells all kinds of aftermarket stuff for these things. And he's the only one that has these keys. But they are pretty damn nice. Look at that. That's like a perfect fit. I'm really excited to see if this thing has got good spark. And then hopefully the freaking magnets won't hit the armature, because I hate really messing with that. Usually these early ones, you don't have too much problem with it. It's the later ones that tend to cause a lot of trouble. There's also a lot of trouble with the later ones trying to get that freaking stator plate out of the crankcase sometimes. These earlier ones tend to come apart pretty easily. Oh yeah, we're good. I like to take a little solder to the wire to the freaking terminal. Alright. The big moment. Woo. Fucker's still hot. Oh yeah. That's kick-ass. Even turning it over nice and slow, it still throws off a hell of a spark. I just realized the fucking camera ain't even showing. So I got that on there. Got my throttle hooked up here. Let me see if I get a better shot. Little turnbuckle in there. The throttle linkage goes to that. And then this cable goes to the other end of the turnbuckle down here. And there's a cable clamp on this other one. That's why these two bosses are raised, I think, to let you know which ones to use. Anyway, got that. Put the pulley back on it and the breather. And let's see here. I have one of these little stoppers for a muffler, and it wouldn't let me use the one that I had before, so I'm going to use this bowling style muffler. It's basically an FH muffler, but with no threads on it. Larry makes these too, and boy, they are just beautiful. Let's see if it'll fit here. Boy, it's tight. Yeah, that's perfect. I got that stop off of a different engine. But it works great here. Alright. So that just leaves gas and oil. The main reason I put this throttle cable on is because these Basco carbs are opposite of other carbs. As you pull it, that brings it down to idle. That's wide open. And trying to hold on to that thing while it's running, just forget it. Perfect. Let's see what happens. Alright. Alright, well, here we go, I guess. I'll go grab a new plug. Nice brand new old stock number 7. Basco carbs always leak. Well, I shouldn't say always. The fucking camera got so excited it fell off the stand. I figured for sure it was done. I'll be damned. Still works, hopefully. Alright, well I shut it down. What? Damn it. I got that little blanket to put on there, and hopefully that'll keep it from bouncing. And this is not one of Larry's tanks. Just want to make that clear. Alright, round 2. Got that to hold the idle down. Fucking thing's got some compression now. about time. Got tons of compression, especially for considering how bad the rings were. Well, that's all for now, folks.